Hello everybody, Sean here, and we're taking a look at Sirensong C, the first dungeon added in Stormblood for Final Fantasy XIV, and this is access through the main scenario quest, so you cannot miss it. It is a mandatory one. Level 61, although the maximum level within the dungeon is actually 62. And the first section of this dungeon is just going to be a bunch of trash pulls as normal. You're going to start out on this boat, and then you will end up on land for a few more before you reach the first boss. There's nothing to these trash pulls. In fact, the first couple that take place on the boat will go by very quickly because you have several of the scions here with you and other NPCs, so you're going to blow through these pretty quick, and then the ones on land will be a little slower, but again, there is no real challenge here. These are simple trash pulls that you'll need to clear out before you reach the first boss. And that first boss is Liugot, and Liugot is an interesting looking boss, to say the least, but not so difficult. The main thing you want to be aware of in this fight is that you want to stay near the boss. That goes for ranged, melee, all the people in the party should stay near the boss, and that attack right there is why. The applause attack is a very large AoE, and you want to stay near the boss at all times so that you can best avoid it. You'll also see that he has a stacking AoE that, if only hits one person, will immediately drop them to the ground, so you want to make sure you stack up for that. Otherwise, it's not so tough of a boss. You just need to be mindful of the many AoEs that this boss is going to be utilizing, and that is a theme through much of this dungeon, is that there are a lot of AoEs for all the bosses. So stick near to the boss, make sure to stack when you see that target come up, and otherwise just beat up the boss as quickly as you can. Now, Overflow, you can see, knocks people back, and then, of course, the stacking mechanic Hydro Ball is launched again. You just need to run quickly. The easiest thing to do when you get knocked back is to just have everyone run back towards the middle of the arena, since that's the shortest distance for everyone to reach. Again, it's a simple boss mechanic of dodging all the AoEs. Stick close to the boss, that way you have a better chance of getting away from applause. And then this attack, Swallows All, you'll see happen every once in a while, and it just sucks you in. One attack pushes you away, one attack sucks you in, and then drops a bunch of AoEs. Again, just need to get out of there very quickly. Remember that Sprint no longer burns all your TP when you click it, so if you find yourself in a bad situation, then you can quickly use Sprint and get away and not have to worry about suddenly having no TP left. Again, you can see Hydro Ball being used, and you get stacked up. And the damage isn't so bad as long as your healer is ready to drop a nice big AoE heal on you guys. But with all that said, the boss will get chewed up pretty quickly. You can grab your loot and move on to the second section of this dungeon. So the second part of this dungeon, not much different than the first. I mean, this is a dungeon after all. It's going to be filled with monsters for you to kill, but the big notable thing, and you can see right there, is the blue flame that's going to appear on the ground. Every time you engage a new pack of enemies in the second section of this dungeon, some blue flame will appear on the ground. You just simply want to avoid it. It's going to do a pretty sizable amount of damage if you stand in it for more than 2 or 3 seconds. So have your tank just grab the enemies and pull them a couple feet away, that way you can safely engage them. All the groups of enemies are pretty similar. You have birds and octopuses, and then you have a bunch of skeletons. They're not really going to pose much of a threat for you. The skeletons are the hardest hitting ones because there's just simply so many, but with enough AoE and proper healing, you will burn through them pretty quickly, and of course, just stay away from that blue flame. Before long, you'll get some more loot, and you'll beat the second boss. And the second boss of the dungeon is the Governor. I think a very interesting looking boss, one of my personal favorites in the new expansion. But the Governor, for all his interesting looks, has a couple big mechanics that you do want to be aware of, and the first you're seeing on screen right now, that's called Shadow Flow. He will walk to the middle of the arena and sink into the ground, releasing a large AoE. Pretty straightforward, just don't stand in it. You shouldn't have a problem during the first section. It gets a little more complicated later on. The next major mechanic you want to know is that one that you just saw. It's called Enter the Night. He will mark someone, then suck them in and tether them. As soon as you get sucked in, immediately run to the far outside of the arena. Don't waste any time doing anything else, just get to the outside. As soon as you do, you'll break the tether, the damage will stop hurting you. Now, as he gets a little weaker, you're going to see Shadow Flow transform because he summons in these duplicates and covers more of the floor. At this point, things get a little more complicated because there's simply 99% of the floor covered in shadow. So if you're a ranged character, obviously finding a safe spot won't be as difficult for you. If you're a melee character, finding a safe spot where you could still hit the boss is going to be tough, but it is possible. You will notice throughout this fight that I skirt the edge of what is and is not safe so that I am still able to hit the boss, but I am safe. You might take a tick or two of damage as you get into the proper position, as you'll see right here, but it is possible to still hit the boss because almost always, like 99% of the time, there will be a spot on the floor close enough for melee characters to still hit them. They're just going to have to play a little risky. Other than Shadow Flow and Enter the Night, there's not much else to be aware of. He does have one other major skill called Blood Burst. Doesn't really do a whole lot of damage. It is party-wide damage, but it's not a whole lot. So as long as you can deal with Shadow Flow and Enter the Night, you'll be A-OK. You'll grab some sweet loot and carry on to Section 3. Now the third part of this dungeon has a couple more trash pulls. They shouldn't pose too much of a problem because they are just simple trash pulls. They have one big mob, several weaker ones. But this guy here is more of a mini-boss. He's right near the end, but he is more of a mini-boss than a trash pull, and he has one thing you need to be aware of. He has an attack called Seductive Scream, and you want to stun that right here. You're going to see that happen. You absolutely want to stun that because immediately after Scream, he uses Flood, and although it's unlikely to kill you, it will deal a lot of damage. So if you were already weak, it's quite possible you will get dropped by this attack. It does do upwards of 10,000 damage, if not more, depending on your gear level when you enter this dungeon. So, anytime you see this captive use Seductive Scream, do everything in your power to click a stun and make sure he does not use it, or else you risk taking a ton of damage and potentially dying. But once you kill this fellow, you can move on to the final boss of the dungeon. And here we are at the boss of the dungeon, Lorelei. Very interesting looking boss, and I'm a big fan of all the bosses in this dungeon. They're very, very cool looking. But Lorelei has two main attacks we're going to talk about, and then a couple others we'll just kind of go over quickly. But the two main ones are Morbid Advance and Morbid Retreat, which are essentially the same, and the Virgin Tears. So the Virgin Tears, she will use pretty frequently, and this is right here. And they drop AoEs on the ground, impossible to miss, bright blue, very, very easy to spot. Simply don't stand in them. Standing in them is going to hurt you quite a bit, as you saw right there. It's about 500 to 1,000 a tick, depending on your gear, so standing in them for more than a few seconds is really going to add up that damage. Now, what she will normally do is combo Virgin Tears with her other main skill, Morbid Advance or Morbid Retreat. Now, as the name implies, Morbid Advance or Morbid Retreat will make your character move, as you're going to see throughout this video. It will make your character move uncontrollably. You cannot stop it. You cannot do anything but watch your character walk. However, when you see her using the skill, you can aim where your character is going to go so that they walk somewhere safe. As you're going to see right here, I position myself behind her, I walk through her several steps and right on the edge of what is safe. Morbid Advance, obviously, is going to make your character walk forward several steps. Morbid Retreat is going to make your character walk backwards several steps. So, depending on which one she's casting, keep that in mind that you're either going to walk forward or backwards, and you need to position yourself carefully so that you don't take damage while moving. What makes it more complicated, and as you've seen throughout the fight, is that the longer the fight goes, the more the arena gets covered in the Virgin Tears, making it harder for you to find a safe position to stand so that the Morbid Advance or Morbid Retreat will not kill you. But there is always that position to find, so just make sure you're looking for it. If you mess up once, it's not a big deal. You shouldn't die from it. It's just a lot of unnecessary damage that you don't need to be taking. Other than those two main attacks, she has two other ones, Void Water, which is just a big AoE, and Somber Melody, which is a party-wide AoE that you cannot dodge. Neither of which should kill you, and as long as your healer is on top of things, you'll be A-OK. Morbid Advance, Morbid Retreat, and the Virgin Tears are the big ones, so as long as you can get your head around that and safely dodge them every time, you'll blow through the boss no problem, you'll get your free loot, and you'll be able to carry on through your main scenario quests. But there you go, that is Sirensong C. I thank you for watching, and we'll see everyone next time.